Hello everyone, thanks for joining me today. I've received my Spellbinder's monthly subscription of the small and large die. This is the large one, and boy are they large. You get 4 pieces, the large one on the left with the oval piece in the center, and then 2 additional pieces. On the back it always gives you ideas on how to work with your dies. But we're going to focus on the small die set today, and I have several projects to share with you. And I've cut them out so you can get an idea of what they look like. You get 3 birds, 2 that face one another, some flourishes, a small flower, and then the 2 frames. So let's go ahead and get started on making a card. The cards I'll be making are A2 size cards. I'll be using these 2 paper pads from my stash. The color scheme will be silver, white, and different shades of blue. I've cut 2 mats, just slightly smaller than the card base. I'm going to make an inlaid on the top of the silver mat. Just cut the window out. I'll run it through my Big Shot and save the die cut for another project. I've cut the frame out of blue cardstock that I will inlay in the opening. I'll flip it over and add a small piece of white cardstock to keep it in place. And that way I will have a white background on my blue piece. Now I'll go ahead and add my first mat onto my card base. I did wrinkle my paper just a little bit, but once I add the silver mat, you won't be able to tell. Gonna go ahead and pop this up. So I'm adding foam tape and adhering it to my blue mat. And this mat is cut slightly smaller. I've cut 3 of the large birds out of white cardstock, and I'm going to layer the 3 together to give a chipboard feel on this little bird. Just adding liquid adhesive. And now I'll be adding it to my center inlaid piece in the center towards the bottom. Next, I want to use a sentiment from one of my Spellbinder dies that I had in my stash, and it is a thank you piece. I've cut 2 in white cardstock and 1 in blue. I'll stack the 2 white pieces together, and then with the blue piece I will just offset it a little bit to give it a shadow effect. So I'll just add adhesive on the back of my white piece. And then just offset it just ever so slightly to give a shadow look on this piece. Trying to find the right position for my thank you, and it looks like it's going to fit perfectly on the right hand side of my card. Just going to add an acrylic block to hold it down. The silver cardstock is a little slick. In the meantime, I've cut 3 blue flowers, these little tiny little flowers. And I'm going to add them to the left lower corner and add some silver bling that I had in my stash right in the center of each of the flowers. Next I want to do the inside, and I've got the same matte combination, a blue, a silver, and then I've also cut a white piece for the greeting. Next I'll just add adhesive to the back, add this to the inside of my card, and finish it off with a flourish on the bottom right hand corner. And this completes card number 1. For the next card, I'll be using the second frame and the 2 smaller birds. I've used a different shade of blue cardstock, and the silver paper has tiny little hearts. Here I have my frames that I've cut and added a heavy chipboard to the back. Just cut a second piece in white and then added foam tape to the back of the little frames. I want to add the little birds that face one another and add those to the bottom portion of the frame. I've cut 2 of the small flowers out of white cardstock and added a silver gem to the center. I want to place those towards the top of the frame. For the sentiment, I cut "Love You." This was from my stash, and I did the same technique where I added a blue shadow piece behind the white cardstock. Want to finish the inside next, and I've already matted the same style of cardstock that I added to the front, with the addition of a white centerpiece for the greeting. I've cut 3 small flowers out of white cardstock, and I'll just adhere them to the bottom corner. And this completes card number 2. For my next card, I've used a deep blue cardstock and this silver and white polka dot. And now I'm taking a piece of cardstock that I've cut to at 2 1/8 by 3, and I'm layering it on top of the deep blue cardstock, adding adhesive and centering it on my card. I've cut out another thank you with chipboard and also the same color of deep blue cardstock for the top of the sentiment, adding liquid adhesive and adding it towards the top of that focal piece. It really helps adding the acrylic block. Keep everything nice and flat. Next, I've taken the large floral piece, flourish piece, adding liquid adhesive. And I want to position this towards the bottom of that center tag. While I let that dry, I've taken 3 of the small floral pieces. I've already added some silver bling to the center. And then I want to add that to my flourish piece. I want to decorate the inside as well. That way I'll have everything ready to go with the same color combination. This white piece of cardstock I've cut at 2 7/8 by 4 1/2. And I have wrinkled my corner of the cardstock, but if you just, before you adhere it completely down, use your bone folder and it'll iron right out. So let's take the small flourish now and add adhesive to the back and glue it down on the bottom corner. And this completes card number 3. I've made 2 of each design since I still send out thank you cards. You can never have enough on hand ready to go. This would also make a lovely gift. So I'll just lay these out so that you can get a good look. If you stick around, I'll share a simple packaging idea. But first, let's make some envelopes with liners. I'm using the envelope punch board. I'm starting off with an 8 1/8 inch square cardstock and scoring and punching at the 3 5/8 inch mark. I'm rounding off the corners and placing my card in the center as I fold my flaps to ensure the proper fit. I use liquid adhesive to make sure the envelope doesn't come apart. I remove the card and burnish the envelope with my bone folder. This cardstock measures 5 1/2 by 12 and matches the cardstock used on the card. I center the envelope near the top and trace the top of the envelope. You can flip it and do the same on the other end since I need to cut 2 liners. Next, I'll cut the cardstock in half, which is at the 6 inch mark, and cut along the pencil lines. I just stacked both pieces together, just get 1 cut. I'll bring back my punch board and round the top of the liner. Next, I add adhesive right above the score line on the envelope and only add adhesive to the top of the flap of the liner. This makes for easy folding. So here I have all my envelopes done and my cards. I've tied the cards and envelopes with a silk ribbon for a quick and easy presentation. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you have, please give a thumbs up, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care.